Hello and welcome to Allot on Air. During the next 10 minutes or so, we will be meeting with industry experts to discuss the hottest trends in telecom, cybersecurity, and network intelligence.
Hi, everyone. Next week on September 13th, Allot will be hosting a webinar in which we will be releasing the results of an extensive survey of consumers in Europe and North America, gauging their attitudes on the smart home and the need for cybersecurity. Today, I'm pleased to have with me in the Allot On Air studio Ian Parks, Director at Coleman Parks Research based in London, who conducted the research, and Nikki Ralston, Security Content and Research Manager here at Allot, who put together the report that we'll be releasing that day of the webinar. Ian, Nikki, thank you so much for joining me today.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Cool. So let's get started. So let's just dive right into it. Ian, you recently completed the survey, which included 6,000 internet consumers in 7 countries, if I'm not mistaken. Which countries were included in the survey, and what were you hoping to learn from these results?
Well, Barry, the survey covered the major European countries of France, Germany, and Italy, to which we added the UK. And I suppose normally we would classify the UK as part of Europe, but since recently we're not.
Yeah, that's right. You got to be careful these days.
Yeah, I've got to be careful how I classify the UK these days. And then to that we added Canada, Poland, and Sweden. And I think really what we were looking to explore were things around the concerns of security for people as we move to a more IoT and connected world, awareness of security, especially given the backdrop of increasing use of smart devices in the home and more potential attacks coming, and people not necessarily being aware of them. So we really wanted to look at, do people know that they should protect themselves? Are they protecting themselves? And if so, how?
Yeah, no question. And interesting and important information to know. So what percentage of the consumers that were surveyed already had smart or connected devices in their homes? And what were the most popular devices that you found in the research?
Well, I think that interesting that, because it's the first thing that surprised me, and bearing in mind this was an online panel, but actually everyone who took part in the survey had at least one device that you would classify as a smart device. So initially, I think that was quite surprising, and around about 1 in 10 had a single device, and I would say probably the most popular ones that we found were things like smart TVs, which a lot of people have now got, smart kitchen appliances, smart light bulbs, the ones that turn themselves on via your Alexa and all of that lot. Right. And I think one thing that surprised me, and Nikki and I, when we were talking about the research before, there was quite a high usage of households that used smart cleaning devices like the smart vacuums, smart mops, and everything. So I found that particularly interesting as well. But
I did too.
Yeah, on average, someone at a household would typically have around between 4 and 5 smart devices in use at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, I need to catch up.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I remember when we were first reviewing some of the preliminary results that, Ian brought that up, that he was surprised at how high it was and thought, we need to look into it and verify that it wasn't, some kind of sort of problem with the survey. And I, from my perspective, was not surprised at all. We live in 2 different markets, Ian's based in the UK and I'm based in Israel. And I think that really brings to light how important it is that we look at each country specifically and individually. Israel's a much dustier country. It might be that there's just more of a need for keeping the floors clean, that kind of thing. Maybe it's just cultural, Barry. I don't know.
I don't know.
I know a lot of people kind of obsessed around here with keeping their floors clean. Could have to do with pets ownership. I know a lot of people that's what drives them to pick up the pet hair and that kind of thing. But it is kind of funny looking back at it. Of course, people don't enjoy hoovering their home every day and to keeping
let
tidy.
Someone else do it.
It's a mundane, boring task, tedious task. So it's good. Let the robots do it. Makes perfect sense to me.
Long live the robots.
There's definitely some culture and country differences which we'll explore, later on at some other time. But you're right. So it's probably just me being too old-fashioned and thinking you got to push a hoover around the house, but.
Right. Well, it's a change, I think that's everyone's initial reaction is to some new technologies. Oh, who needs that? Or you can't trust a robot to do it. I'll just do it myself. But now that it's become more available, what a great thing to let a robot clean your house for you.
There you go. There you go. Well, let's move on. Ask another question here. Drill down a little bit further. Of course, we're doing this at a pretty high level because we want to all listeners here invite them really to join the webinar on September 13th, and you could register for that webinar on the Allot website or on our social media channels. But let's ask this: for those who had not yet deployed smart home devices, and we see that there are still a lot of people who haven't, even though the numbers here are pretty cool in terms of how many who have. What's the percentage who plan to purchase their first device in the next 12 months, and which devices were they most interested in?
Well, that's a really good question because obviously there's a lot of devices out there, and as I've said, you've got four to five average per household, but there's still a huge commitment because 8 out of 10 of our people that took part, so it was actually 82%, I think, actually said that they're going to be buying at least one device in the next 12 months, and the most popular ones again were things like the smart TVs. They're going to continue. So whilst there's a heavy population of smart TVs, there's still those that want to move into that environment. But the interesting one that really shot up the list is probably the best way of saying it was smart cameras. 16% of people plan to invest in those in the next 12 months, which was quite a surprising statistic. It was actually second on the list after smart TVs.
Oh,
Yeah, and I found that really quite interesting. Again, but in there you've got the issue around which you guys know very well, security, and smart cameras are probably one of the ones where people need to think a lot about security. But yeah, it was interesting that there's still a huge commitment to smart devices over the next 12 months across all of the marketplaces.
Hmm.
looks like a trend.
Yeah.
So, Nikki, let me ask you this: you put together a report. I know before you were talking a little bit about the the robots, but what is it that stood out to you most of the robots, right?
Welcome the robots. We're waiting for them.
Welcome. There you go.
Well, it's interesting because I think the two main things really stood out to me. One was that we had this magic number of 17%. 17% that in all, we asked over 30 questions in seven different markets, and this 17% number kept showing up, whether we were asking them questions about their technical abilities just to set up Wi-Fi, set up the smart home kind of devices, or talking about asking questions specifically about cybersecurity, type of knowledge, capability, confidence. Over and over again, there was always this sort of hardcore, uber technically skilled and confident percentage of the CSP's customers that they can do everything themselves. They understand everything. They don't need technical support. They totally understand cybersecurity risks and how to protect themselves and how to do everything themselves. So that was just kind of interesting that this uber technological customer kind of popped up, and I think that the CSPs that we're working with and talk to will also find that interesting to see how that meshes up with their overall general experience with their how that there's this sort of sub market out there, this sub consumer segment that can do everything themselves. Of course, that also means the other 83% do need varying levels of technical assistance and reassurance in order to fully adopt a complete smart home. We talk
Right.
about
Hmm.
Ian was talking about the most popular devices being smart TV. Well, in a way, that's just sort of a new TV, right? That just means they bought a new TV in the past 5 years or so. But as we're looking to, like you say, bring in the robots to clean your floor and to do more and more
Right.
things, and that issue of technical confidence and technical capabilities is really going to become a big issue, and something that CSPs need to think about how they're really going to partner. And perhaps there's really an opportunity for CSPs here if they can be that technical
Right.
support kind of partner who makes it simple, makes it easy, and then allows really the smart home to expand to its full potential with the CSP there as a partner all along the way. Um, and the other most interesting thing I think, and Ian also already touched on this, was the whole issue of security and the actual security cameras. That people are really looking to do that to secure their homes, their family, both their homes, their families, their belongings. But that they're also very aware that when you bring those smart connected cameras into your home, that also opens you up to very serious potential cybersecurity threats, privacy, invasion of privacy types of issues. So it's interesting. We have at once, this this product that they're very interested in, but also very, very concerned about. And again, I think that that's something that CSPs can really look at and find ways that they can leverage that in order to become that trusted provider in the house, not only of the internet connectivity, which they're already doing and doing so well, but also the smart home and keeping the family safe and secure. That would really be could potentially be an incredible sort of extension of the brand and the brand promise and relationship with their customers.
Excellent. Good stuff. So moving towards the end of the podcast, I have one last question that I'd like to ask both of you. So Ian, first to you. There are already so many smart home gadgets available in the market. Are there still new business opportunities for the smart home? And what's your take on that? And then Nikki, if you want to throw in something after that.
Yeah, I think the words definitely. When you look at the penetration of some of the devices, they're really quite small. I mentioned that, the most popular one, 60% of people have got a smart TV. And as Nikki said, if you bought a TV in the last 3 or 4 years, it's going to be a smart TV. So there's a plethora of devices and options for people to invest in. My, in inverted commas, concern about that, and Nikki's touched on it, you've touched on it, is the more and more IoT devices you put in and the smart devices, the more you're opening yourself up to security risks. And I don't think, and it's certainly been borne out by the research, that the average consumer, if I may use that term, is not sufficiently aware of just how at risk some of their devices are, and therefore they are. And the more and more devices they put in, the more and more they're going to be at risk. So I think to me, the opportunity, and fundamentally it's around the security side of things, not just because I'm talking to you guys, but I fundamentally believe it. And people are not aware of just how secure they need to be. We all take out house insurance because we know our house might burn down, but we don't know when we're buying an IoT device that we should really be getting insurance on that to stop it being hacked or any form of ransomware or whatever. So I think that's where, to me, the opportunity lays, because there's a lot of misunderstanding around the security side of things. Like, I mentioned one thing, and I deliberately put it in the survey knowing it was the wrong question. But I asked people, how are you going to secure some of your IoT devices? And a lot of people think you can just download an app on them. And therein lies the challenge, and therein lies the opportunity.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Nikki, you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I would say also, I think a lot of, just in general, a lot of the opportunity here, and what we see from this research and was interesting is sort of tying together, making the smart home simple and making it secure. Again, we had that 17% of the hardcore uber technological consumers, but really everyone else needs. I think the CSP has an opportunity to really play a role in making the smart home simple, secure, save you hassle, save you time, save you money on your electricity bills, and that kind of thing. So I think by tying it together and really making it simple, secure, something that you just also kind of like insurance, and maybe there's opportunities there as well. There's lots of things to explore. That adding cybersecurity as part of your homeowner's insurance. And of course, putting the proper tools in place, just as you would with locks on your doors and fire alarms and that kind of thing. So I think it's really, in general, a lot of opportunities here for CSPs to sort of expand their foothold into the home and really be part of managing and feeling safe and secure at home, beyond connectivity.
Yeah. Well put. Well, thank you both. This certainly whets the appetite for hearing more on the subject, and we'll be presenting the full results of the survey as well as releasing the report next week on September 13th. So I'll remind our listeners that you can register on the Allot website for the webinar or on our social media channels. We've posted quite a bit about it. And with that, let me thank you, Ian Parks, Director at Coleman Parks Research based in London, Nikki Ralston, Security Content Research Manager here at Allot. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Barry. Thank you, Ian.
Cheers. Take care.
That's it for today's episode. Thanks for listening. You can get more information about network intelligence and security solutions for service providers and enterprises on our website at allot.com. Subscribe to this podcast to make sure you hear about new trends and technologies on the next episode of Allot on Air.